Don't forget to subscribe!
Before we get started on Waking the Dragons chapter, there is something that you should know about Rebecca. When she was 8 years old, she apologized for being mean to Yugi and not listening to his side of a story, and because of it, Yugi gave Rebecca his ties of friendship as a reminder of this lesson, and she kept it for since. And her absence actually explains that she had to remember what went wrong, so she had to atone her sins. And she and her grandfather returned to help Yugi and his friends fight against Dartz. The following battles are seen. Yami Yugi vs. YuGiOh. Yami Yugi wins the battle. Seto Kaiba vs. Alistair. Seto Kaiba wins the battle. My Valentine vs. Maximilian Pegasus. My Valentine wins. And the duel between My Valentine and Joey Wheeler ended in a draw. Yami Yugi vs. Raphael. Raphael wins. Joey Wheeler vs. Rex Raptor. Joey Wheeler wins. Weevil Underwood vs. Yami Yugi. Yami Yugi wins. Yugi Moto vs. Yami Yugi. Yami Yugi wins. Yami vs. the Orichalco Soldier. Yami Yugi wins. Valon vs. Rebecca Hawkins and Duke Devlin. Valon wins. Alistair vs. Seto Kaiba. Seto Kaiba wins. Seto Kaiba vs. Aaron. It was chess, and it was a draw. Joey Wheeler vs. Valon. Joey Wheeler wins. And Joey Wheeler vs. My Valentine. My Valentine wins. Raphael vs. My Valentine. Raphael wins. Raphael vs. Yami Yugi. Yami Yugi wins. Dartz vs. Yami Yugi and Seto Kaiba. Yami Yugi wins. The Great Leviathan versus Yami Yugi, Joey Wheeler, and Seto Kaiba. Yami Yugi wins.
The Waking the Dragons chapter is based around an organization named Doma in the Japanese version, which uses a card known as the Seal or Orichalcos to entrap the souls of people and duel monsters alike. In an effort to revive an ancient dragon monster known as the Great Leviathan, the beast was at the center of destruction of Atlantean society 10,000 years ago, well before the time of Egyptians, which on the rest of the series is based. In the past, the Great Leviathan was defeated by the 3 legendary dragons, Timaeus, Critias, and Hermos. Although not being destroyed, the Leviathan was severely weakened, forcing Dartz, the king of Atlantis, and his Dormar organization to collect souls for 10,000 years. Dartz knew he would succeed after seeing the power of the Pharaoh Atum in ancient Egypt some thousands of years later. In the English adaptation, Dartz cites the Shadow Realm specifically. The story begins after the end of the Battle City tournament, when Adam wanted to recover his lost memories by obtaining the Egyptian god cards to activate the chamber of the nameless Pharaoh King inside the memory world. Suddenly, a dark force freezes the tablet of lost memories, sealing it to prevent him from doing so. Outside, duel monsters have come to life and begin attacking the civilians without warning, even after Kaiba shut down the dueling system. When the monsters kept appearing, he called industrial illusions in an attempt to get help. Later that night, a group of perpetrators broke into the Kamegame shop and stole 3 god cards from Yugi's grandfather Solomon Muto, who had been given the cards for safekeeping. Giving chase to the thieves, they eventually encounter Gurimo, a mysterious man in a cape. Gurimo is collecting souls, and plans to collect the souls of duelists by defeating them in a duel. To this end, he uses a seal of Orichalcos card, a field magic card that cannot be dispelled and prevented outside interference, only the winner of the duel being able to escape and the loser having his soul taken away by the seal. Although Gurimo manages to unleash the power of Obelisk the Tormentor against its former owner, Yugi eventually wins the duel but ultimately fails to recover the god cards. The god cards eventually arrive in the hands of Dartz,
who sacrifices his power to awaken his great beast, the Great Leviathan. The next night, as the world sees a giant eye in the sky, Yugi and the Pharaoh awaken in the depths of the Millennium Puzzle where they encounter Kuribo, urging them to follow a portal hidden inside the puzzle to the world of beasts. There they are greeted by Dark Magician Girl, who tells them the tale of the Great Leviathan and urges them to pull a sword from an ice statue. They do so and unlock the power of the Eye of Timaeus, who proceeds to destroy the eye in the sky above the world of beasts. Similarly, Yugi would unleash the same power in the real world, forcing the Great Leviathan to retreat. The other two legendary dragons would also be unleashed in a similar manner. Fang of Critias was unlocked by Seto Kaiba in a duel, after kowtowing to a demand allegedly by Maximilian Pegasus to duel at his duelist kingdom as a publicity stunt. There he discovers that one of the thieves, Imelda, Alistair, named for Alistair Crowley, who coined the universal hexagram that acts as the symbol of the Orichalcos in the English version, that had led him there, wanting retribution for what Kaiba Corp had done against his family. Although the seal of Orichalcos was indeed used, the battle was fought to a draw, allowing both Alistair and Kaiba to escape unharmed. The third legendary dragon, the Claw of Hermos, would be unlocked by Joey Wheeler. When Yugi and his friends would retrieve a video from Pegasus, as it turns out, shortly before he is defeated in the Soul Seal, who implores Yugi and his friends to travel to America and retrieve a card holding the key to defeating their then unknown threat. At Pegasus Industrial Illusions HQ, however, they are locked inside the building, where Mai Valentine emerges to battle Joey. During this duel, Yugi and friends discover that Mai had been wandering the Earth after their Battle City tournament. Although she finished in the top 8, she was always overshadowed by Joey and continually traumatized by her loss to Merrick Ishtar, in which she was physically and emotionally seriously scarred. Determined to become stronger at any cost and never wanting to lose another duel again, Mai eventually wound up with Dartz, eagerly accepting his offer to become stronger, not realizing the power of the Orichalcos would be her undoing. And the change in Mai's behavior would, as it turns out, be partially due to Valent, the second of Doma's 3 swordsmen, who had cared for Mai in the time of need, and wanted her to move on with her life by defeating Joey, effectively also doing the work for her. When Joey appears to have the upper hand in the duel thanks to the Claw of Hermos, Valent uses his Orichalcos stone to break the seal, rendering the match a no contest and allowing both Mai and Joey's souls to survive. Meanwhile, Duke Devlin, accompanied by Weevil Underwood and Rex Raptor, would manage to break into the building and unlock the doors. Sato and Mokuba Kaiba would also appear, and all of them would help Yugi find the card that Pegasus claimed would help Yugi end the threat of Doma. Yet, when they find it, it is actually blank. The third swordsman, Raphael, would later challenge Yugi. Raphael claimed that Yugi and his friends were fighting for the wrong cause, and that Raphael was a noble hero out to save the world. He claimed that mankind was inherently evil, and that Orichalcos exposed the darkness within the souls of mankind, thus the need for them to be sealed by the seal of Orichalcos. However, as Yugi dueled, he finds himself easily outmatched by Raphael's guardian monsters, which he refused to allow to go to the card graveyard. After Raphael plays the spell card exchange, Yugi finds himself with the seal of Orichalcos in his hand. Not wanting to lose yet, but not wanting to play the seal, the two souls of Yugi would debate over whether to use the card. Blinded by the desire to win at any cost, Yami, in control of Yugi's body during the duel, ignores Yugi's pleas and plays the seal in order to power up his monsters. Using the ability of the catapult turtle, he sacrifices monster after monster to wear away at Raphael's life points, even sacrificing his own trusted Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl in the process. Yet, Raphael is able to survive and use the situation to his advantage by summoning Guardian Eidos. Eidos would use the spirits of Yugi's all monsters to defeat Yugi.
As the seal slowly circles around the fallen pharaoh, however, Yugi realizes that two souls reside within one body and allows the seal to take him instead, sacrificing himself so that the pharaoh would survive. Meanwhile, Weevil and Rex, after seeing the power of the Orichalcos, seek to have the power for themselves, despite being complete idiots. The pharaoh, despite the attempts of his friends to cheer him up, became distraught over the loss of his other self. Meanwhile, as the pharaoh and company continue to travel, Weevil and Rex meet Dartz, who grants them the power of the Orichalcos. In return, however, they are told to use their newfound power on the pharaoh and Joey, a win-win scenario for Dartz in any event. The two would manage to hijack the train the pharaoh and company would be riding in, Weevil isolating Yami and Taya Gardner, while Rex finding Joey and Tristan Taylor. Thus, the two Duelist Kingdom rematches were slated to begin, only with much more on the line. While Joey would have a little trouble dispatching Rex with the help of his Claw of Hermos, Timaeus would seemingly abandon the pharaoh, forcing him to win the duel without it because of his recent action he did when dueling against Raphael. He would ultimately prevail against Weevil with the help of Breaker the Magical Warrior, which, along with its ability and Berserker's Soul, allowed it to attack Weevil repeatedly as long as the pharaoh drew and discarded monsters, which he did ruthlessly. Taya would implore the pharaoh to stop, long after he had beaten Weevil, just as Yami was about to discard Dark Magician Girl. Just then, however, the moving train would head off on a cliff, although they would survive, having been rescued by a mysterious person. His savior would be revealed as Ironheart. Ironheart would lead the pharaoh to the Valley of Lost Souls, where he found the spirit of Yugi. Yugi confronts the pharaoh and implores him to face himself through a duel if he is really sorry for his misdeeds in the previous duel, with both players sharing the same deck. In this duel, Yugi would bring forth the seal of Orichalcos, and would use a similar strategy to what the pharaoh had used against Raphael, sacrificing monsters to win. The pharaoh would protest against Yugi's strategy and not to make the same mistake he did it, or it will prevent him from saving him and humanity. But Yugi, under the influence of Orichalcos, sees him as an evil individual who never cared about everyone but himself and cruelly makes him pay for his own action. However, the pharaoh ultimately wins the duel after successfully countering Yugi's moves. Despite not wanting to lose Yugi again, the pharaoh promises to save him. Just as he was about to leave, however, Dartz, who had been observing the pharaoh's activities, conjures a spell to bring forth an Orichalcos soldier. While dueling the Orichalcos soldier, however, the pharaoh realizes that Timaeus is his only hope of winning, yet he could not use it as he does not have the card in his deck, after having given it to Ironheart, believing him to be unworthy of the card's power. Ironheart and his family, consisting of granddaughter Chris and his pet wolf Sky, would sacrifice their lives to deliver the card to Yugi, who uses it successfully to defeat the Orichalcos soldier. With the darkness within himself eliminated, the pharaoh could finally move on, and hope to find and rescue Yugi, wherever he may be. Each of the three swordsmen were chosen for their apparent misfortunes in life, all of which, as it turns out, were orchestrated by Dartz. Alistair came from a war-torn region, and his life revolved around helping himself and his brother survive the ravages of war. Ultimately, however, his family was killed, captured in the English version by opposing forces, who were allegedly funded by Kaiba Corporation. Holding its head, Gozaburo Kaiba responsible, Alistair seeks his adopted sons for revenge. He manages to hijack the plane Seto and Mokuba were piloting,
and seeks a rematch with Seto to end it once and for all. As the duel moves on, Alistair recounts his history with the Kaiba Corporation and notes that whether he wins or loses, the plane will crash, allowing the seal of Orichalcos to claim all 3 lives. Kaiba, willing to protect Mokuba at any cost, will use Critias to prevail. On the last turn of the duel, Alistair gave in so that Mokuba would not lose his brother as Alistair did. In his brief moment of defeat before being claimed by the Orichalcos, Alistair saves a bit of his brother in Mokuba, allowing him to stop living in the past and move on with his life. Valen was a child delinquent, always getting into fights. When he gets into a fight with a gang of street thugs, they retaliate by burning a local church down, along with the nun who had taken care of him. In revenge, he had killed the street thugs, and as a result was sent to prison. This detail was omitted in the English dub. There, Valen was framed and imprisoned for a crime that was orchestrated by Dartz. He was sent in and out of 12 detention centers before a warden turns him to duel monsters. There, the warden sets forth a battle royal style challenge, where the winner would be set free. Valen would eventually be the winner. Having trapped all others with the seal of Orichalcos, he is granted release, and to the custody of the prison sponsor, Dartz. Valen, in his perspective, saw Joey as the big obstacle in Mai's life, and vowed to take him down in her honor, while Joey wants to take down Valen, believing that Doma is to blame for turning Mai against him. When their duel inevitably begins, Valen uses his deck of armor monsters, mostly 0 attack and mostly 0 defense monsters with devastating effects, to literally form a suit of armor around himself and intending to literally beat Joey senseless. Likewise, Joey is forced to defend himself with a suit of armor of his own, formed from his trusted Red Eyes Black Dragon. The two would physically punish each other throughout the match, with Joey coming out in front. The duel between Valen and Joey would arouse Mai's interest, and Joey would be forced to duel her in order to set the record straight. Joey, tired and physically beaten from the previous duel, is unable to concentrate on the duel, and yet manages to deal serious damage to Mai. Yet he manages to reach out to her just as Joey is about to lose. Mai would ultimately not attack Joey and win the duel, but Joey collapses in exhaustion, allowing the seal of Orichalcos to take his soul. Taking the fallen Hermos with her, she proceeds to confront Raphael, the last of the 3 swordsmen, where it's implied that her soul was also taken.
Oh, I can't believe this is happening! Please don't let it be me!
Raphael came from a well-off family, which was taken from him when they were separated from each other at a young age, and they were separated from the shipwreck, while the family survived but forgotten about Raphael. He was washed up ashore on a deserted island, and he would live on the island for 3 years, according to Rebecca Hawkins, with his guardian cards, the only thing allowing him to retain his sanity. His attitude in dueling was simple. As the cards had cared for him during those years, he would try to do the same to his monsters. When he was eventually rescued, he found out that the world he lived in had changed. Unwilling to accept the outside world 9 years after the events of his accident before the events of the series, Raphael turned to Dartz. When Raphael confronts the Pharaoh again, he hands the Pharaoh Claw of Hermos, which he had picked up from Mai's soulless body, and promises to defeat the Pharaoh like he did before. This time, however, it is instead Raphael who uses the seal of Orichalcos to the Pharaoh's horror. Up to that point, it seemed that Raphael was not the type of person who would use such a card after Timaeus destroyed Eidos, and like the Pharaoh before. Raphael would proceed to sacrifice his trusted guardians, all to power up his deadliest guardian, Guardian Dreadscythe, a guardian who could be revived simply by discarding a single card, determined to set Raphael free and shown the errors of his ways. The Pharaoh takes it upon himself to destroy the Dreadscythe by any means necessary, and he does so with the combined power of Hermos and Guardian Eidos. Raphael's most trusted guardian. With Raphael seeing the error of his ways, he uses a final magic card to resummon all his guardians, at the cost of the remainder of his life points. Though Raphael loses, his soul isn't taken since he found the light in himself, as souls are taken because of the darkness inside of someone.
Raphael proceeds to tell the Pharaoh and company where to find Dartz, and they proceed to Dart's lair, where they find an entire room of captured souls. Dartz appears and challenges the Pharaoh and Kaiba in a 2-on-1 match. Dartz, however, is more powerful than his 3 henchmen combined. Not only he is able to repel the Master of Dragon Soldier, a fusion of 2 of Kaiba's and the Pharaoh's most powerful cards, but is able to expand the full power of the Seal of Orichalcos by playing its 2nd and 3rd levels, Orichalcos Deuteros and Orichalcos Tritos. These would give Dartz even more life points, making additional attacks fruitless. Furthermore, his array of mirror knights is making the Pharaoh reluctant to attack, as the souls of his fallen friends are trapped inside each one. When Raphael tries to intervene, he unleashes his stored up rage at Dartz, who at the point revealed that he was the source of the 3 henchmen's troubles in life, and the Seal of Orichalcos, dormant since his earlier duel, takes his soul. So Kaiba, however, sees Dartz' past tricks and to throw the Pharaoh off guard, and proceeds to attack. By destroying his monsters, however, Dartz releases an even more powerful monster, Orichalcos Sonoros, which easily defeats Kaiba and claims the seal to claim his soul. Desperate for a comeback, Yugi manages to draw the blank card that Pegasus gave him. Only this time the card has changed to Legend of Heart, allowing the true nature of the legendary dragons to be revealed. In the past, the kingdom of Atlantis was guarded by 3 knights, which were turned into dragons and sealed away from the battles that eventually destroyed Atlantis. By using the Legend of Heart, the 3 legendary dragons revert to their true form, allowing legendary knight Timaeus, legendary knight Critias, and legendary knight Hermos to be reborn. The 3 knights managed to destroy the 3 levels of the Seal of Orichalcos, as well as Dart's Orichalcos Sonoros. However, Dartz has a last resort up his sleeves, by sacrificing all of his life points so he could summon Divine Serpent Ge, which has infinite attack and defense, and also allows Dartz to continue to duel as long as it remained on the field. Likewise, Yugi is forced to similarly entrust his own livelihood to his dark magician girl. By combining all 3 knights of Atlantis to form the Timaeus of the Knight of Destiny, this Divine Serpent Ge, Timaeus, the Knight of Destiny, the Divine Serpent Ge is destroyed, winning the duel in Yugi's favor. Although as a result, the souls of Yugi, Joey, and Kaiba are liberated from the Orichalcos. Dartz sacrifices his own soul, allowing the Great Leviathan to be revived and fusing himself with the Great Beast to control it. The Great Leviathan has been reborn thanks to Dart's own sacrifice. Even the combined forces of the Knights of Atlantis and the most powerful of Yugi's, Kaiba's, and Joey's monsters were not enough to stop it. Their only hope, as it seems, is to put all their own power onto reviving the 3 gods of Egypt, Obelisk the Tormentor, Slifer the Sky Dragon, and the Winged Dragon of Ra. With the 3 monsters revived with the power of the light of all Dart's prisoners, this greatly reduces the Great Leviathan's strength, enough for the 3 gods to easily destroy it, freeing all the captive souls in the progress. Yet, the Great Leviathan would continue to exist, as it was made from the evil mind of mankind. The Pharaoh, wanting to help Dartz be rid of the influence of the Orichalcos, takes it upon himself to personally ensure that the Great Leviathan and the influence of the Orichalcos is no more. With it gone, Dartz returns to normal and proceeds happily into the afterlife with Ironheart, Chris, and the rest of his family.
Not a big surprise.
As for the main characters, the Knights of Atlantis, a dark magician girl, thanked them for their alliance and returned to the world of the beasts.
The 3 legendary dragon cards, as well as the legend apart, disappear into thin air just as they came, vowing to reappear when the world is exposed once again.
And a great father. I've missed you so much, Dad.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
YuGiOh will return right after this.
This video is a pain more than it should have, so I'm splitting it into 2 parts.